2NURFM.com, a broadcast service of the University of Newcastle.
I'm very pleased to see Professor John O'Connor in studio with me today from the University of Newcastle and telling me about batteries. Batteries are the bane of my life, John.
Bane of everyone's life, and we need them so much on mobile phones, tablets, computers, aircraft, and they're just everywhere. And of course, energy storage is a big issue in terms of renewable energy too. So being able to store energy efficiently and certainly reliably is something that's getting a lot of attention. And I've seen a couple of very interesting articles lately. One which is people will have heard of lithium batteries. They're very common, but there's some work recently also about some new work about sodium batteries, which is coming on. But I thought I'd actually stick with lithium for the time being because they are part of our life. And you think that after many years of research, they've probably squeezed every last bit of benefit out of every last technological benefit. But there's a group in Korea in South Korea, great group for both research and for commercialisation of ideas, who have looked at new ways of using or developing lithium batteries. Now, the problem with lithium batteries, as with many batteries, is that lithium gets transported between the anode and the cathode. It gets moved across, absorbed, then emitted, moved across the other one backwards and forwards as it's charged and discharged. Now, when it gets absorbed by the electrode, it swells, and when it goes out again, it contracts. And that continual swelling and contracting basically starts to degrade the electrode, and it falls apart, and that's why we have a limited life to the batteries. So what you'd like to do is to come up with something that won't degrade that way. And there are materials, but they don't really store a lot of energy. Silicon, very minute particles of silicon are great. They can store a lot of energy, but they also are the ones that degrade.
Is that why the sand gets so hot at the beach?
No, that's a totally different story. We'll do that another day.
All right, that's silica, I should imagine.
But what they've found is if they coat these very small particles of silicon with thin layers of graphene, and that's like a single sheet of carbon. You know, carbon comes in many forms. Graphite is a series of layers of this, like a series of sheets, like a sandwich. But graphene is just a single sheet. They found if they coat the silicon with graphene, then it makes it more resilient and it stores almost twice as much energy. So first off, it stores more energy than you would if you just had silicon. But more importantly, it can cope with this repeated transfer backwards and forwards, and in fact they've put it through hundreds of cycles, and it still can store not only more energy, but it's still going. And on top of that, the graphene helps with the electrical conductivity as well. So we have the potential for batteries to last longer and to store more energy. Now, if you've got a mobile phone, storing more energy is probably the first thing you want to know about, but also you want to know that they last longer as well. So certainly in this one small part of the battery community, we've got a significant advance. And as I said, that's not the only one. They're working on other materials like sodium, and sodium is a very common material. Our oceans are full of the stuff, sodium chloride. So it would be a very cheap material to use. So certainly there are big developments. Of course, if you get on the scale of storing energy for houses and so forth, the new Tesla process, they're working on lithium batteries.
Yes, that's
big
exciting.
development there. If you're talking about communities, they're now talking about having batteries the size of shipping containers.
My goodness.
And they're not lithium batteries, they're actually a different form of battery, but certainly there are big developments and they're going to be part of our future.
And you should imagine it's a bit like computers. They'll start huge like shipping containers, and then as the technology becomes more and more refined, they'll probably end up being the size of an existing battery these days. Can I ask the question, when we have a phone battery, a lot of people believe it's better to let it go completely dead before recharging it. Is that still the case?
With most batteries, deep cycling is best because whether it's the phone battery or other sorts of batteries, yes, if you have a rechargeable battery, it's best to, if not every day, on a regular basis, get it right down to flat. At least probably once a week or twice a week, because that removes what's called the memory effect in it.
Yes, okay.
In fact, I spent the weekend with one of my devices running, not a battery, it was actually a rechargeable source for pumping up tyres, for pressures. But I spent the weekend letting that run down to zero, and I do that every 3 months.
Just so that memory is wiped, the battery memory is wiped. Yeah. It's Professor of Physics, Professor John O'Connor from the University of Newcastle, and he's always got such interesting little scientific tidbits. We love it when he comes to visit.